Hey guys, this is Frozen Things Stews here, and welcome back to another movie review. And today, I am going to be doing a review on X Men: The Last Stand. So, X Men: The Last Stand is the third installment in the Fox X Men franchise, and the final time we get to see the OG X Men team front and center with the original cast. Although we do get to see them again in Days of Future Past, and it came out in the year 2006 and is directed by Brett Ratner, the same director as the same director who directed the Rush Hour films, which I think are guilty pleasures in my opinion. And it stars Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Hugh Jackman, Famke Janssen, Halle Berry, Anna Paquin, Kelsey Grammer, Elliot Page, formerly Ellen Page at the time of this movie's release, Sean Ashmore, Vinnie Jones, Aaron Stanford, Ben Foster, James Marsden, Rebecca Romijn, Daniel Cudmore, Michael Murphy, Daniel Ramirez, Joseph Sommer, Bill Duke, Eric Dane, etc. And so the film tells a story of a cure for mutants, which is a threat to the mutants because it takes away their powers and turns them human. That is invented by Warren Worthington II, a scientist and father of a boy who turned into a mutant by developing angel wings called Angel, and so he believed that the cure should be used on mutants. So the cure starts off an even bigger war with the mutants for both the X Men and the Brotherhood. And so yeah, lines are drawn amongst all mutants, and they must pretty much work together to stop the humans. And Magneto, on the other hand, continues to wage war against the humans, and the X Men must stop Magneto while still trying to save all mutants from the cure. As a wide protest is being made to in order to end to stop the idea of the cure. And meanwhile, Jean Grey, who sacrificed herself in the last movie, turns into the Dark Phoenix, where she becomes very uncontrollable. So much so that she makes the world see all mutants as a threat. And yeah, she turns into the most powerful mutant ever. So the X Men must attempt to change her and turn her back to Jean Grey, but unfortunately it doesn't end well because yeah, Magneto uses Jean Grey as a weapon in order to get what he wants. So yeah, that's it, I guess. Yeah, very messy plot as you can tell. But yeah, so now before this movie came out, the X Men movies has had a great track record, including the first X Men movie. Yes, I still stand by my thoughts on the first X Men movie, but I do acknowledge how it was able to change the game for for the superhero genre because X Men came out at a time when superhero movies were terribly and even worse than today. I mean, if you thought today's standards for superhero movies are bad and are killing superhero movies, just wait till you see what happened with superhero movies back then. Yeah, superhero movies in the 90s and 80s world is terrible, poorly received, and yeah, we constantly received bad movies after bad movies, after garbage after garbage, disaster after disaster, with films like Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, Batman and Robin, got Captain America, Howard the Duck, and just so many more, just atrocious movies. And why are they poorly received, may ask? Well, because they were not taking themselves very seriously. They were literally making they all literally felt like an absolute joke. And so came X Men to save the superhero genre and proves that the superhero genre can still be good if they're taken seriously, and that's exactly what old movies miss. So, regardless of my criticism about X Men, I do acknowledge what I was going for, and I think people should too. And X2 just made things even better. Both X2 and the first two films in the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy proved that showed that superhero movies can get really good if they're done really well. And X2 is an excellent film. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. There are some minor flaws with it, including a thin plot, but X2 is still awesome because of how they raised the stakes higher. They had great ambition, great character work, and it just does everything an X-Men movie should do. Like and everything I want in an X-Men film. And then came the Last Stand, the third film in the X Men franchise, which pretty much got the Spider-Man 3 treatment. It is considered to be the Spider-Man 3 of X-Men, where people absolutely hated it so much because of how it just doesn't live up to the last film. And one thing that really affected the film is Brett Ratner. Yeah, despite me saying that the Rush Hour films are guilty pleasures, and I actually go positive on the Rush Hour films. I think the Rush Hour films are underrated. Brett Ratner does not have a good track record. Especially outside of Rush Hour, because he directed Red Dragon, which absolutely sucked, and just a few other terrible films like Tower Heist, the Family Man, I guess, and he's even one of the directors of movie 43. Even though this came first, he's one of the people who worked on movie 43. So you know that Brett Ratner is a terrible director, and you want to know why Bryan Singer didn't return to this franchise? Because he chose to direct the Superman Returns instead. Yeah, the Superman. The unnecessary, pointless Superman reboot, which I will never understand why people call it underrated. It's honestly a very boring, bland, and unnecessary movie. I'll talk about Superman Returns one day, maybe next year, leading up to Superman. But right now, let's focus on X Men. But seriously though, I think Brett Ratner should have directed Superman Returns and have Bryan Singer take over this one, because man, you can clearly see the obvious production troubles here. And but what do I personally think of this film? Honestly, I gotta say it's not as bad as others say it is. It's not a disaster and a complete failure, but it is a major letdown, especially after the success of X2. And with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 57%, I actually have the same rating as I'd actually give it that rating. Maybe like 52, like that, something like that. 53, like not maybe like low 50, somewhere there. If I were to rate this movie in percentage, but still, X Men Last Stand is just not good. Out of all the X Men films, X Men The Last Stand is the messiest and most bloated of them all. Despite not being bad, it's just the messiest and also most convoluted one. There are a bunch of things to like about this film, and I want to probably get the good stuff out of the way first. The things that I kind of liked about this film. Probably one thing I really liked about this film, and it's hard not to like, is Wolverine and how they handle this character. I'm actually glad that they got the Wolverine's character right, as Wolverine is a fan favorite character, and regardless of how bad they can mess up any other X-Men team, I'm glad that Wolverine, out of all characters, were the ones who was the one who was treated with respect the most in this one, or at least one of them. I will say though that I personally don't think Professor X's death was a big deal, especially when he was alive in Logan, and they did decently explain how he was alive. But I think that Professor X's death in this one, I know people say that it was a bad decision and a disgrace to kill off Professor X, but I think it's not that big of a deal. It really helped. His death really helped push Wolverine's arc forward, because now with Professor X dead, Wolverine has become the new X-Men leader, and he really steps it up. steps of him game. I mean, because of how invested we were with Wolverine in the first two X-Men films. X-Men films. Wolverine being the new X-Men leader just felt very earned. Yeah, he really earned the title of the leader. And this wasn't his own personal decision. Like he didn't say he wanted to lead. Not that he didn't want to either. Not that he refused to either. But he just had no choice. Yeah, he's the one who wanted to live out to Professor X's legacy, and even he said even like when he got the team together, and then he said that that they needed to do this movie for no sorry, they needed to do this fight for Charles, because if they don't do anything with they don't do anything, then Charles's death would be meaningless. So I love what they did with Wolverine here. Yeah, a really strong arc. I also think that Storm is well utilized. I think that I love how she felt even more major than she was in the first two. And yeah, Storm is arguably the most iconic female character. And the X in she's arguably the most iconic female character in X Men. And this movie, I like the way they use Storm. Especially with how likable she was, and just how well portrayed she was with Halle Berry. In fact, the performances are actually one positive thing. Well, not all the performances are good, but I'd say Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, Ellen slash Elliot Page in particular. I'll get to Elliot Page later. And a few others. I guess Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart to a default. I guess we're okay. We're pretty good, but yeah, I think. Yeah, Storm is hands down Halle Berry's best role, and I'm actually glad that she got to redeem herself after that disaster that was like Catwoman. Blah. Yeah, but the standard of the movie to me has to be Kitty Pryde. Now, okay, well, objectively, she doesn't have the strongest writing, and and she doesn't even have the best screen time. She's like mostly in the second half of the film, but goddamn, I love Kitty Pryde. Yeah, she's like a character is very personal to me. Yeah, she's so cute, likable. She might probably be my X-Men crush. Don't judge me. Yeah, Kitty Pryde may be my X-Men crush, honestly. Well, we'll see if that can change. But right now, I mean, I just love Kitty Pryde. But I'm just a huge fan of Ellen Page. I mean, Juno, which was released a year later, and especially Inception. Yeah, she's a great actress. Even though I do respect her decision to become trans and now be a male and called Elliot Page, I respect that, but I just missed that time when when she was just an adorable actress. I missed that. But actually, I will admit, if it wasn't for Kitty Pryde, my thoughts on this movie could have been a lot worse. Yeah, I'm gonna be a tad bit more generous to this one. Thanks to just my obsession with Kitty Pryde, but if it wasn't for her, yeah, this movie would have been a lot worse. Not sure she's my favorite X-Men character. It's really hard to think of. Not sure she's my favorite X-Men character. Well, technically she's not, but I'd say she's in my top 5, and she's probably the most likable X-Men character. Yeah, Laura slash X-23 from Logan would be my favorite X-Men character in general, but Kitty Pryde is right up there. And my favorite scene in the film is the scene where Iceman and Kitty were hanging out in a campus after Charles's funeral. Kitty was like expressing of how much she loved Charles for inviting her to be in the school because of how Charles saw potential in her. I liked it a lot. And then we get to see Iceman and Kitty Pryde on the ice rink, hanging out and walking around the campus. Oh man, they're so chill. It's just beautiful. It really put a smile on my face. And yeah, Iceman and Kitty are way better couple than Iceman and Rogue. Yeah, I'll admit. If you guys don't remember me saying in my X2 review, I don't like Iceman and Rogue as a couple, but Iceman and Kitty, that's more like it. More like it. And Joss's funeral is kind of a great emotional scene, especially Halle Berry's acting in it. Yeah, honestly, I will admit, I do think Halle Berry gave the best performance of this film, especially with how she reacted to Charles's death and in the funeral scene. That was great. The scene in the final battle with Kitty being chased by Juggernaut would have been my favorite scene if it wasn't for. I'll talk about it later. Yeah, and speaking of which, the action scenes are definitely one of my favorite scenes. One of my favorite scenes in the film. They were a ton of fun, especially they're a ton of fun as well. Like the house scene and the house fight and the fun, especially the San Francisco fire battle. Although the only fight I don't like is the opening fight, especially mainly because of the unnecessary shaky cam. Yeah. And also I like the beginning a lot when Professor X and Magneto were visiting a young Jean Grey. I love how they de-aged Charles and Magneto without to look young without making it so obvious. How they still act like themselves, but without they still feel like themselves. Like the only thing they changed to make them look the age are like the old man wrinkles or something like that. They had them removed, and I think they did a really good job on that. And yeah, but man, this movie is. But the rest of the movie, though, yeah, everything else in this film is problematic. And now let's get the flaws with it. And yeah, my main problem with the film is that it is so messy. Is how messy and convoluted the story is. It wants to do so many things at once, whether it'll be the Mutant Cure storyline or the Dark Phoenix storyline. They're basically two different storylines that don't connect with each other. I know people like the Mutant Cure storyline, but I'm sorry, it doesn't work for me. I mean, they barely explore the Mutant Cure storyline, and it kind of felt like an afterthought. The Dark Phoenix storyline could have been something special. That would have made this the best film in the original trilogy. And there's actually a lot of material that could have made this even better than X2. But Brett Ratner and Fox really botched up the Dark Phoenix storyline. Yeah, I was like raving about Jean Grey in the comics in my review of the first two X-Men films. The Dark Phoenix storyline is actually my favorite storyline in the comics, and Marvel just and these movie studios they don't seem to know how to properly adapt this storyline into a movie. I mean, I would personally make my own version of Dark Phoenix and get it right. But yeah, man, this is a failed attempt at trying to capture the Dark Phoenix storyline. The problem with this Dark Phoenix storyline is that it felt like it came out of nowhere and was a last minute decision. And the film couldn't decide on what the main plot is, the Mutant Cure storyline or the Dark Phoenix storyline. And I understand that Jean said the structure would have come from the fact that she can't control her powers, because that's really the problem with the Dark Phoenix, is that she can't control her powers, and so like her powers being incontrollable is what harms people. I mean, she kills people on purpose. Like, it's so obvious that she's doing this on purpose, and she's like mad. She's mad for no reason. Like, there's no motivation behind Jean doing this on purpose. She kills both Cyclops and Professor X on purpose. I mean, I guess Professor X is. I guess Jean just didn't like Professor X being having his thoughts on her head. Like, she didn't like how Professor X's mind kept on going to her head, even though Jean didn't want it. So, I guess it was kind of accidental, partially, but still, there's no excuse. But Jean killing Cyclops, my God, Cyclops' death is the worst death in the X-Men. Or technically one of the worst. Like, my God, like, just the decision to kill off Cyclops in the first place is so bad, and how they did it is just, oh yeah, Jean just wanted to kiss Cyclops to kiss her, and she tried to control Cyclops' eyes, and she succeeded, but then she just killed him out of nowhere and killed him off screen, and that's only like 20 minutes in the movie. Wow, what a terrible way to kill them both. Yeah, I also didn't like how they handled both Rogue and Magneto at this point, and I used to love them. No wonder Rogue is not one of my favorite X-Men characters. Even though I thought she was going to grow on me in X-Men, I just forgot how weak of a character she was in this one. Yeah, Rogue's arc is basically just her fearing that she'd accidentally killed her love interest by kissing him after what happened in the events of the very beginning of the first X-Men film, which felt like a very repeated character arc. And not to mention, she just disappears in the middle of the movie, and the rest of the movie, she's nowhere to be found. Like what? Like why would you do that to Rogue? Yeah, Fox, you should be ashamed of yourself for ruining Rogue. Rogue. And as for Magneto, I didn't like how he just randomly went back to being a villain all of a sudden just because he's more well known for being a villain. Even though in X2, Magneto became an ally as well and actually worked together with the X-Men. You'd think that by then Magneto would have redeemed himself, but nope. Like there wasn't even signs of Magneto returning to his evil nature. So why all of a sudden he just went back to being evil? And boy, there were far too much villains. Yeah, I guess it would have been more impactful if the runtime was longer, like X2, but no, it's short. And my and seriously, what's with these OG X Men films being short? The short runtime was my problem with the first X Men, and it's an even bigger problem here because this movie attempts to be so big and so ambitious, but a short runtime is one of the main things that kills the film for me. And and oh boy, I need to talk about the worst character in the movie, Juggernaut. He is so annoying. Oh my. If it wasn't for his annoying mouth, Kitty and Juggernaut would have been the best. Kitty versus Juggernaut would have been the best scene in the film. But seriously, every time I hear his voice and his dialogue, I just wanted to rip his mouth. And especially with lines like, "Oh, do you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch." Like, bro, that's the best line you can come up with? Are you joking? That is a joke right there. Yeah, they turned the Juggernaut into an absolute joke. Thank God we got the better. Thank God we got a much better version of Juggernaut in Deadpool 2. Thank God for that. So overall, X Men: The Last Stand is not bad by any means, it it's just a wasted potential. It's just a mess that underutilizes that pretty much just ruins half of the characters in this one with unnecessary deaths and just butcher them up. And and yeah, I would say at the very least, this movie is not very boring. It's not a boring movie. I'd say it's more enjoyable than the first X-Men movie, but it's just really not enough for me to give this one a pass. I'm sorry. This movie could have been so much better. So with that said, I'm going to give X-Men: The Last Stand a 2.5 stars out of 5. Hope yeah, fingers crossed. The MCU can give us a perfect Jean Grey. Whether Sadie Sink plays Jean Grey or not, yeah, please make her at least perfect. Make her just as good as she was in the comics. Make me fall in love with the on-screen Jean Grey. So also for my review of X-Men: The Last Stand, what are your thoughts on the film? Would you agree with me that this movie was a disappointment, or do you think this movie is underrated and you defend it? Comment down below, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned for my review on the X-Men prequel films. Yeah, with the young versions of the cast, First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix. Now, yes, I actually do have change of plans with my X-Men marathon because I was originally going to be reviewing them on June, and I was going to take a break so I can just watch other movies. However, I want to get them out of the way now because I can't stop thinking about these movies, especially when the young cells of the X-Men were I prefer them over the OGs. So yeah. Now, as for my plans, my updated plans, I'll reveal them in my First Class review. So yeah, stay tuned for my review on X-Men First Class. Bye guys.